Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We've got Michael, Hannah, Emily with us so far. There she is. Hi.
Hi, ladies.
How are you today?
I am great. We have a company day off tomorrow, so it's like a Friday.
Oh, nice. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
and,
we had a little.
What's the company day off? Is this like an election day?
So, no, it's actually our product reached. So we sell educational technology, and we've reached 1 million students, actually 2 million by the time the celebration happened this morning. So they gave us tomorrow off to celebrate.
That's
so cool.
Yeah. Great. So really fun for morale this morning. Got to meet people because we're global, so we don't always get to meet with people in the other countries, but it was a lot of fun.
God, that's neat. Tell us your company again, Hannah.
Labster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a big, exciting thing. Oh, cool.
Yeah, just fun to, I always love things like that because I feel like in sales, you're always like so focused on every deal individually and you don't always see the big picture. So it was really nice.
I get that in a big way. A big way. All right, I'm admitting Krista and Samuel. And in the meantime, Emily and Michael, we're going to camera bully you. So, just lean in.
I'm on in.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix it so it's on the right screen for my end.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, Michael.
Welcome. Today, I thought it would be cool if you could type into chat your name, your company, and then since we're still pretty close to Halloween, it seems like a lot of things has happened since Halloween already, but since it was kind of close, the best Halloween costume you saw in line or in person. I know not everybody had probably trick-or-treaters. It was kind of a weird one, but what was the best Halloween costume you saw this year?
Oh, I got to think about that.
I know I came up with that, but then I was like, well, I don't even know what my answer is.
Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't see more political costumes. And I applaud you for not having our chat having anything to do with election day.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah. Let's stay away. Okay.
McCloskey couple. There were so many Tiger Kings, right?
Yeah.
Tiger Kings and Carol Baskins. Some of them were pretty good though. I have a special place in my heart for inflatable costumes. I just think they're so funny and they basically win every time. With my previous team, I used to do a contest and so we did it for like 4 years where if they met a certain goal in October, that they would be able to pick my costume. And I always secretly wanted them to pick some inflatable costume because I always thought it would be so hysterical. But they never did.
They got lots of good reviews. Everybody's coming up to her and laughing. And
yeah,
it's 7-year-old. She's like, why is everybody laughing at me at first? And then she realized they all loved it. So it was good.
Yeah, exactly. They're just so funny. And then you put it on a kid, it's even better. COVID costume, and that's good. Even if you saw one in a meme, Christy, I didn't really see too many in person either, but there were some pretty funny memes. I actually did see, and this was online, I didn't see anybody in person, somebody that had kind of like a Zoom costume where they like had on like a nice shirt and makeup and hair, but their hair in the back was like a crazy mess and they had like no pants on and it was, like a Zoom quarantine style.
Oh, I wasn't getting it at first. I'm like, so normal?
Yeah.
Just a hot mess? Okay.
It is normal now.
Oh, so true. We still have a few more popping in to our waiting room. If you've just joined us today for our icebreaker, we're putting in our name, our company, and the best Halloween costume that you saw live or online. And let's get the camera bullying going. Nice to see you, Sean and Michael. Hi, Beth. Hi, Samuel. There's Jackie. Steve's joining us today from Factor 8. Hi, Steve. There's Jennifer. Joe, I always have you on like screen 1. Today you're down on screen 3. I don't understand.
I'm
My life is
falling.
upside down.
I'm falling. All I can say is I'm falling in the rankings.
All right, we've got a great full group.
Yeah, I think we can probably get started if you're ready to keep watching that waiting room, Lauren.
All right.
Okay. So just as a reminder, I'm Angela Salazar. I work with Lauren on the Girls Club side of things, but also help out here with the Factor 8 training. So I'm going to be leading today's training for Own Your Day. And we have some different activities we're going to talk through. So want to make sure we're using the most of the time. Thumbs up, thumbs down, quick hand raise. How many of you were able to do that e-learning in advance prior to our call today? See some thumbs up. Good. Okay. A good portion of you, probably maybe about 50%. That's awesome. So you absolutely will not fall super behind. We're kind of going to refresh it as we go along, but always good to know where we're starting at. The first thing that we're going to talk about is, if my slide wants to advance, there we go, is just the fact that as a sales manager, you guys, we've been there. It's one of the toughest jobs ever. There is so much going on. Your time is really not your own. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Your typical day is going to include emails and meetings and more meetings and 10 people following you around like you're their mother duck and they need answers from you. So Own Your Day is really just about time management, but really taking ownership of it, right? It's not just categorizing, it's how do I make sure that I get to control my day and that it's not 100% reactive based on what everybody else needs. And it's certainly not easy. So the goals, basically, we want to make sure that we're recognizing those proactive tasks in that to-do list, categorizing that tasks into kind of urgent and important categories, and then how do we respond to those requests as they come up as we're going through things. So one of the things that I wanted to share because I thought it was interesting was this statistic. According to the American Institute of Stress, 46% of stress reported amongst employees is caused by an overwhelming workload. How many of you feel like this is accurate? Quick hand raise, thumbs up, yes, workload, definitely something. How many of you feel like it changed with COVID and readjusting and Zoom and how to manage all of those things, right? Like it's a big transition. And we've seen a lot of people having to kind of rearrange their best practices, things that you've had down and had nailed, right? Another stat I read was up to 80% of the average working day is spent on activities with little to no value. That is a tough pill to swallow. Does that seem real or does that sound like no way that couldn't be possible?
80%?
80%
of your daily tasks are crap.
No value. Yep.
Huh. Well,
So
email certainly falls in that category for me.
It specifically mentioned that people are spending only 20% of their time on the tasks that are considered important, but specifically for managers, interruptions can account for 3 hours per working day.
Wow.
You know, we don't always add it up, but I think we've all experienced that feeling of like, where the heck did my day go? Right? Like the day's wrapping up and we're at that. Anybody agree with that? Anybody feel that way on a regular basis? See a lot of heads nodding for sure. Okay. So what we're going to talk about here is proactive versus reactive. You start your day, your week, your month, you have all these dreams and plans, you got your coffee and you have all these hopes of being proactive. You're going to do it differently possibly than you did before, and you're ready to go. So what sort of things do you find most easily take you off track? So chat it in or come off mute and let me know. What are the things that are the fastest thing to take you off track on a regular basis? Chats, IMs, yep, for sure. Fire drills, we're definitely going to talk about fire drills. One-off questions, email, client issues. Client issues are tricky. I mean, because man, the client definitely thinks that they deserve an instant response always. So that one's easy to get you off track. Emails, phone calls, everything is time sensitive, right? You're on everybody else's time, right? Everybody else thinks that their issue is urgent. So let's flip this a little bit. What are some things that you wish you had more time for? What are you missing out on? Call coaching, exercising, strategic projects, right? Strategy in general, I'm sure. Strategy, building strategy, coaching, rep development. Okay, great. So the thing that stands out easiest right now are that those things are not in line. The things that are most easy to kind of get you off track. It's not like you jump into call coaching and, oh, I've been doing it for so long, I'm off my schedule. You're not even getting to that, right? You're not even, you always wish you had more time for it. So what happens when you can't get it all done? If somebody wants to come off mute, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. What happens when it's the end of the day or it's the end of the week and it's just not done?
No excuse to get it done. I mean, it's, you know, that's why we get put in these positions, right? It's to, people know that we can get the job done, and whether or not we put the extra hours in, or maybe sneak an email in at midnight, or get a presentation done during the weekend. That's why we were put in these positions, because our leaders know that they can rely on us.
Yeah, for sure. So Sean, that echoes what we see in the chats there. So nights, weekends, overtime. So when you don't get it done, it's on you, and you now have to dip into your own personal time and make it happen. Right. I think that that's the common answer that we see there. There's some people that are like, oh, well, it's not going to get done. Those people don't often last as long in leadership roles, right? If they just can't get it done. So, so I think you're right. I think we just kind of have to do it. But then let's look at, you know, reprioritization. How can we make our day a little bit more proactive? How can we spend some time making sure that, you know, we put some strategy into our day to own it, so that it's not getting away from us, so that we didn't spend all day doing none of the things on our list and then having to spend our weekends checking off our list. Okay. So we're going to move quickly through this exercise just to talk about some things like whether these things are proactive or reactive. So the first one, reading your email. You can type it into chat or you can come off mute. What do you think this is? Is this proactive or reactive? Reactive. Okay. So what is the question we're going to ask ourselves when this is, what's the difference between proactive or reactive? How do you know? Something you initiate. For the purpose of sales, let's look at this as, will this drive numbers and move the team ahead? That's proactive because it's with the goal in mind. Okay. So proactive doesn't necessarily mean you had it as a plan, because we can have a plan to have a great day, but that's not necessarily getting us where we need it to be. The goal is to drive numbers and move the team ahead. So we're, for the sake of this exercise, anything that helps us do that, drive the team ahead, is going to be proactive. Anything beyond that is reactive. So you're absolutely right. Reading your emails, reactive. It is not directly impacting numbers. What about having a line at my desk? Proactive or reactive? Reactive. Good. calling a morning huddle. Proactive. Why does somebody want to come off mute and tell me why that's proactive?
Because hopefully you're driving energy, so you're driving your sales team to go out there and start building sales.
Yeah, yeah. And it can be filled with an actual tip, something that you're giving them that's leading them to be able to do that, right? So perfect. Helping reps with questions and issues. A little bit mixed on this one. We see some more reactives. Remembering, will this drive numbers and move the team ahead? We're going to go reactive on this one. This is not necessarily driving the team ahead. This is being responsive, and it's not addressing maybe bigger issues. So it's much more reactive. Walking down the rows, doing drive-bys, high fives. Proactive. I agree with you. Great. Going out there, getting that motivation, driving numbers. Pulling a rep into a sales strategy meeting. Good. When we're talking strategy, we're probably talking proactive. Very good. And then our last one, running in a pipeline meeting. That proactive or reactive? Proactive, proactive, proactive. Good. Good. So you guys are starting to get the difference there a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit more about the proactive, but we want to talk about these 3 steps, okay? So now that we have a little bit of an idea about the proactive piece, and we're able to identify those things, we're going to talk about how do we categorize the difference between urgency and important, okay? So on our next slide here, what's the difference between urgency and importance? So critical to the mission, this usually means revenue or goal related. Is that urgent or important? Seeing important in the chat. You're right, that's important. So when it's time sensitive, then that's when we know it's going to be urgent. Okay, so why is it important for us to understand the difference between urgent and important?
How you prioritize your day and how you prioritize as things are coming in. It can better, that's how you organize and, you know, hopefully get everything done by the end of the week or end of the day and things.
Perfect.
Get rid of the distractions.
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit in a little bit more detail here about the Eisenhower method. How many of you have heard of this before? Show of hands, thumbs up. Not too many. Okay, well, that's great. So the Eisenhower method is going to help us break down the urgent versus not urgent, but also keeping in mind what is important versus not important. Okay, so items that are urgent and important could be a top priority, while those that are neither, not important and not urgent, those are things that we can throw out and get rid of, right? So this is the scale that we're going to work off of today. And if you haven't already, there is an activity associated with this e-learning that will ask you to help break out some of your day, categorizing things like this to see if it will help you really own your day and be more productive. So we are going to work on an activity. So what would be considered a fire drill? Who can give me an example of what that might be? I'd love to have somebody come off mute for that.
End of month contract.
End of month contract. Okay, so it's urgent and it's important. So that meets the criteria. Great. What would be an example of something that we would schedule?
A one-on-one with your rep.
A one-on-one with your rep. And why is that important?
Because it'll be sales driving, but you can schedule it and talk about the future. Yep.
Great. But it doesn't have to happen right this second.
Right.
Perfect. Great example. What about delegate? What would be an example of something you could delegate?
Getting the numbers.
What was that? Did someone have an answer or an
pulling reporting?
Pulling reporting. Okay.
For leadership.
Okay. And so how is that? So that's urgent because maybe you need that reporting now.
Sales rep has like a computer issue or needs something from the IT department, so you can delegate it to them.
Okay, perfect. So it's something that needs to be addressed, right? We recognize that, but you may not be the person that has to address it. Who here has struggled or gets apprehensive about delegating? Anyone? We have some seasoned leaders here, so maybe you guys are really comfortable with it. What about as a new leader? Do you remember feeling that?
We talked about that on our first call, how it's like this disease to please, right? And we want to do everything for our reps, and we're used to owning things, or we're disappointed that when other people own it, it doesn't go as well. So y'all are big fat liars. I did not see enough hands go up.
I was thinking the same thing. We definitely saw a lot more people saying delegating was difficult. So then let's talk about trash. Does anybody have any apprehension or anxieties just around the fact that we're saying we're going to put something in the trash? Do you have any hoarders, responsibility hoarders on here? No? Oh, I see. Okay, I saw one hand. Okay. All right, you guys put it all in the trash then, right? Who can give me an example of something that you would put in the trash?
We have a team group chat, and sometimes the reps can get a little bit carried away with memes and stuff. So obviously with your computer binging, you feel the need to go and check to see what it is, and it could be something that's pointless to even look at.
Okay, yeah. So that's real trash for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Who else has an idea? Because I think we probably do not use this one quite as much as we should. There's probably a little bit more trash out there. So remember, these are not time sensitive, but they're also not important. Certain emails, maybe?
Angela, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I was saying. 50% of the emails you receive.
Yeah. It can be as simple as, what emails are you responding to, right? What are you spending your time on? Saying, thank you back sometimes. That could just be a trash, right? You gave me the information and not spending the time to go back on some of those pleasantries. Sometimes we're overly polite and it is taking up your time. Okay. So emails, I think that there's a lot of times where that's the case, where sometimes you're spending time filing things that you're never going to need to see again. I mean, you literally could put it in the trash, right? Okay. So do we have a pretty good understanding there of the fire drill, schedule, delegate, trash system here? Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and go. So now what we're going to move on to, we are going to look at some examples. I'm going to give you an action, and then I want you in the chat, you're going to give me a number, okay? And you're going to tell me what quadrant you think this falls into, okay? So the first one, stop, get rid of it. It's a time waster. What quadrant are we looking at?
We got 4s across the board.
4s across the board. So maybe there's some verbiage things there, but it's a time waster for you, but it's not necessarily not important. So this one is actually going to be delegate. So there's maybe that one's a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I could see either way on that.
Yeah, I can see either way on that as well. So this is a nope, it's a time waster for you, right? But let's delegate that off. Let's go to one that maybe is a little clearer. Schedule, plan it in the calendar. What number is that going to be? 2. Absolutely. We're going to schedule that one. It says it right on there. Okay, this one is avoid, delegate, delay, educate. So I think, you know what, I'm going to say that this is probably, I think those two got switched up, because now I'm going to say this one is probably the delegate and the other one probably was trash. So that's on me. Do now. Answers left, 1, right? So that's by the deadline. Urgent, do now, simple. Okay. So I think you guys got it. This is how we get through this. Now we're going to practice this with some examples. And I want you guys to maybe take a moment to write down, if you have some notes there, write down a couple of things. I have examples here at the bottom left. If you could make a list of 4 things, they don't have to match mine. They shouldn't match mine, right? Put them in any kind of order. Try to think of something that might fall into each quadrant. Okay, now I'm going to call on some of you randomly, and you're going to give us an example. And then in the chats, we're going to say which quadrant we think that falls in, and you're going to tell us if we're right. Okay, so Katie, can you give us an example?
Yes. I wrote talk through the strategy for an account with a team member.
Okay, talk through the strategy of an account with a team member. In chat, where do you think that goes? Some 2s, I saw a 3. So Katie, where do you see that falling?
I see that as not urgent, but important.
Perfect. So you're going to give it a 2. You're going to put it on the schedule? Great. Yes. Great. Kasha, do you have an example for us?
Sure. So do you want me to run through all 4 or just one?
You can just give one.
Yep. So one of mine was, so we've been actually having issues with high velocity sales. So how would you handle someone on your team having some technical issues that are going to affect their making calls for like a call blitz for the day?
Okay. What do we think in the chat? Some 3s and 1, 2 in there. Kasha, what are you thinking? Where are you putting that in your day?
Yeah, so I actually usually will delegate to one of the people on my team who's like the second best person at kind of, or maybe the best. I won't say that they're not the best at it, but that they're very familiar with Salesforce and can have them problem solve, maybe meet with them and schedule a quick check-in to just do some testing.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's do another example. How about Tariq?
Yeah, so you know, a rep's come up to me and he said that he needs help jumping on a call to speak with a CFO to get a deal in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. What do we think? Lots of 1s. There's a 2. All right, Tariq, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it could be 1, but I also thought, could it be 3 if I get my CFO involved? You know, depending on regarding what the call is about, if the CFO could be looking at last minute thing. Could I delegate? I mean, it is urgent, but could I bring in my CFO?
And that's a great question. So it's a good transition into sort of our next topic that we're going to spend even a little bit more time on, which is kind of how do we respond? And some of those responses is asking another follow-up question, right? Is there a little bit more information that we can learn to decide how urgent is it? How important is it? Is this really something I have to do myself? So that was great. I'm going to take one more example. Does anybody?
If I could, Angela, jump in on Tariq's, I would have actually said that's a schedule. And the reason why I'd say it's a schedule is you want to make sure you get that CFO involved. You want to make sure you get all of your parties involved that need to be involved. So it's not something that could happen instantly. It's something that you need to schedule and make sure everybody's schedules line up.
Right. Even if it's scheduling urgently.
Correct. So that's why I say schedule. Sorry, Tariq.
Nah, thanks, man.
Yeah. So, and I think that just from a terminology perspective, Joe, I think it's a good thing to point out. Schedule, that borderline of schedule and or 1 and 2, if you are scheduling it, but you're scheduling it right now, right? Because I need to get all those people, I think you still kind of lean into quadrant 1, but because we use the word schedule, it might sound a little bit more like a 2. But if it is urgent, and I'm going to get the CFO's attention right now because of how urgent this is, and he's going to attend my urgent meeting, then it's still probably kind of really close to that category 1. Okay,
I think it's all in asking the questions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, if I can't decide right now, then I've got to do the follow-up and find out just how urgent it is.
Absolutely.
It's all in that mindset of, okay, instead of just automatically saying yes and doing the fire drill, it's wait, I have follow-up questions so I can put it in a different box.
Yeah. And I think that, when I start to think about different ways that I've managed my time, and I'm sure, I started looking at how many apps there are, and it's just insane, right? How many different ways people can manage their time, how many books on time management, all of these different things. And I think about some of the simplest ways that I do it, not necessarily being the right way. Sometimes it's just, okay, literally making a list of what I need to get done today. But oftentimes with that, I will start with easiest to check off, right? Sometimes I'll go there, even if that's not the top priority, and then go to urgent priorities. So having a formula that helps us identify our day and actually put those things together really helps us be able to say, okay, this is actually what's efficient and what's going to benefit everybody else. So the next part that we're going to look at here is we're going to talk about how to respond to these requests. And Joe, this brings in that piece that you and Tariq are talking about here and following up onto that conversation. So we're going to do a little bit of role plays with that because we want to make sure that we're understanding these situations. So first scenario, and can I get a volunteer? A hand raiser, I'm looking. All right, Katie, you can be my volunteer. All right, I'm going to read this and then we're going to talk about how you might handle this in terms of how you're going to prioritize this, okay? So Monday morning, you've had your coffee, you're ready to start the new week, you're all ready to go, big plans, you're excited to take a proactive approach to own your day. Now, just as you walk in / log into your Zoom, you're approached by Emily. She's one of your employees, and she's so excited to tell you about a new deal she just won. So first of all, tell us how you would classify this, what quadrant you would put this in, and then tell me let's role play how you would respond to her with her request of your time.
I see this as important and not urgent. Like it's important to acknowledge when someone's won a deal, it's important to celebrate them. It doesn't have to be done right there. And you also want to be sure to give the attention that is deserved for winning a deal. It's not a fire drill. There's not someone that's not going to change the results. So I would say, awesome. Let's during our one-on-one with this week. Can you share more about how we got there, what you're excited about, where we can replicate this, and what you learned throughout the process? Is what I would do.
That's perfect. Perfect. Great job. All right. Next volunteer. Looking for a hand raise. Come off mute. Tell me you're here if I have not seen your hand yet. I'm going to call on someone. Jackie?
Sure. So I think we're talking about the second part of the request, right? Do you have a minute? I need your advice, the system error.
Yep. So just for the sake of everybody else, it's 3 p.m. You finished a meeting with your direct supervisor where you walked away with a few critical action items, and your boss is expecting an email back from you today. So we know that's an urgent item that you have to work on. But as soon as you hang up the phone, you have Mark, he's standing in your doorway and says, do you have a minute? I need your advice on a system error I'm getting. So what quadrant are you putting this in?
I'm putting that in 3 for delegate. So I would delegate the system issue, whether I'm sending Mark to like an expert that I know, or to Tariq's point, someone on the team, or I don't know if it's Tariq who said that, but someone on the team that can help. A lot of times in our group, it's like a PC support type of thing. So we just send them there for help and then give them a backup if that doesn't work, because I'm considering number 1, the first part of that, a 1, where I'm going to need some time to block right now to work on that, since it's 3 o'clock and I need to work on that for my direct boss by the end of the day.
Okay, so I'm Mark, and from my perspective, this is the end of the world. This is the most important thing. So I'm asking you, I need a minute of your time. I need you. I'm getting the system error. So how would you respond to me specifically?
So I'd say, Mark, totally get it. I know this is hindering you from getting your work done, and I know this is, really important to get this fixed. Can you do me a favor and please contact, Gary in PC support? First of all, he'll be able to help you a lot faster than I will. And if for some reason you can't get a hold of him, shoot me a quick message on Teams and I can escalate this to the head of PC support, Emily.
Great. What did she do well there?
Acknowledge.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, she didn't make him feel like it wasn't an important issue. She recognized it was. And I like the ownership there too, Jackie, of you saying, and if it doesn't get done, I'll continue to help you, right? Yeah. Because sometimes the delegation, one, we may not be comfortable with it always, and it might make us feel a little nervous, but other times it's, in those cases, I typically don't feel too nervous, but the other person might, right? Like, they don't listen to me, they listen to you, which is why I need you.
Mm-hmm. I love how Jackie, even though you offered help again at the end, and as you started, I was like, oh, it's going to wind up back on her plate. Here she goes. She's going to take it. But no, the help you offered was, I'll help you escalate it, but be clear. Right. I'm not looking at your screen.
Right.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. Not send me a screenshot. I'll put together an email. Like you really gave the ownership to him. So that was perfect. Okay, who's my next volunteer? Hey, Michael, you want to volunteer?
Sure.
I heard yes.
Whatever that is, yeah. Okay. So Hannah from Human Resources just called to let you know that your employee Sam was observed by an employee in another department stealing a cell phone from the lunchroom 15 minutes ago. So this just happened. Hannah would like for you to come to her office to discuss it further. Hence the guy in the picture's face, right? Like, oh.
Yeah.
How do you classify this request?
I believe that's a 1.
Yeah. Urgent. Why is it urgent?
Stealing from the company is probably pretty important and an issue you need to deal with right away, as opposed to scheduling it or delegating. So I would handle it right away.
Yeah. And this just happened. So we can assume that, Sam is probably sitting on your floor with that cell phone, right? He hasn't gone home for the day. We probably want to catch him before that. So how do you respond? So I'm Hannah. What do you let me know?
Yeah, come to my office. We can get whoever else we need to involved, whether it be, I mean, she's the head of human resources. Yeah, her, you have to get the CFO, whoever else involved. But this is certainly something urgent and important to deal with right away.
Okay, great. So does anybody have any questions about any of those scenarios? Have you experienced anything similar? Have you done it differently? Lessons learned? Who wants to share?
The only thing that I would want to add to it is just like, and probably not something that you would share with Hannah, but have your delegate of whoever is going to be like your point of contact while you're away, because this might take some time.
Mm-hmm.
So that way your team doesn't feel like abandoned and they know who to lean on when they're having an issue or need to escalate something internally.
Right. In case there's a fire drill while you're away, handling a fire drill.
Right.
Which is usually how that goes, I think. Okay, very good. Okay, so it seems like you guys are really getting it down in terms of the quadrants. How many of you feel like this is something that you, whether it's the Eisenhower matrix or not, have already sort of implemented or sort of used something similar in your day-to-day world?
I think as a manager, you probably had to implement something like this, or nothing important or urgent would get finished, but I don't know that I have done it in such a strategic way.
Okay. You haven't taken.
Angela, I feel like you've got a system, but it's like, I think the hard part is remembering each time and not falling into the lazy habit of, yeah, I'll just take it, and forcing yourself to make a decision as it approaches. Sorry, I cut somebody off.
Oh no, I was just saying, I remember the conversations, 10 years ago when I first was promoted, and you want to impress everyone, you want to be that person, but shortly thereafter, I was getting burnt out, and people were lying too much because they know they can go to me for that answer. So no, I definitely enjoyed. Well, I don't enjoy reminiscing about it, but I do recall having these, experiences, were very similar to them back when I first started leading teams.
Yeah. And how many of you have experienced it where, I mean, as the manager, sometimes, especially if you're working in any sort of, call center type, your team members are on the phones constantly. Sometimes asking you questions is their way of getting off the phones or, killing some time. So the things that they're coming up to you are very creative, but they also are very much feeling the need for your attention. So how are you pushing back on that? How are you giving them, how are you owning your day in that? Or do you find yourself getting sucked in?
I find that with specifically call coaching. They don't necessarily love the call coaching. And so when you start it out, they have a lot of questions to make the time go by. Because if you've dedicated 1 hour of call coaching, they come with a number of questions. Then all of a sudden you're looking at the clock and you have 30 minutes of call coaching opposed to 60.
Right.
So at times, I mean, I found myself getting sucked in, and then all of a sudden now it's like, okay, why don't you save the questions after, but let's get into the call coaching and then we'll discuss your concerns.
That's a perfect example, because sometimes you have done the front end work, right? You already kind of classified it. Maybe it's something that you scheduled, but now you said 60 minutes, you scheduled 15 minutes, whatever it was that you thought it was good for. So you put it in the right category, but then maintaining that and keeping it on that track can also be difficult. So you have to manage yourself in the way that you're managing your time, and keep an eye out for those sort of detractors and those people that are not always intentionally, but sometimes very intentionally, killing time. I had in summer school, we had a teacher that it was my junior English class. And we knew that if we had a quiz, all we had to do was get him talking. Like he just was such a talker. All we had to do was get him started on something. And I tell you, probably 8 times out of 10, we didn't even take the quiz. And it was summer school, so there wasn't a lot of days to fill out the curriculum. So we skipped a few quizzes, and they start to know that about you as well. They manage you just as much as you're trying to manage them in their time. So it's important to keep an eye on that. We're going to move into some more role plays. This time I'm going to need, we're going to do kind of a rapid fire face off sort of thing. So I need 2 brave people to come off of mute. Who do I have? Love to have you on video too. Who hasn't participated yet? Hannah, are you brave?
I don't know if you're referring to me or Hannah Lawless, but I'll go. I'll do it.
You're on screen, so I was referring to you.
Oh,
And
sorry,
then,
Hey,
was
Hannah.
that?
I said, oh, sorry, Hannah. Me and Hannah work together too. So this happens to us a lot in our office. Which one are you talking to?
Oh. Well, do you want to battle each other? Battle of the office?
Sure. Why not?
Sure. Let's do it. Okay. So what the goal here is going to be is you guys are going to each come up. You can use that cheat sheet. Maybe if you wrote a couple things down earlier, that'll help you. Person A. So let's see. What were the initials there?
We're both L.
Okay. All right. Well, Hannah, who's on my video.
Hey, Lavender, I think that's me.
Yeah, that's you. Okay, you're first. You're person A, okay? You're going to give a scenario, and then Hannah, other L, is going to give a response based on that, okay? So you're going to be the employee or the coworker or whoever's doing the distracting. And then as player B, you're going to respond. Then we're going to flip it around and player B is going to come up with the scenario and you're going to respond. We're going to go back and forth like that, either for 2 minutes or until someone gets tripped up. Okay. So,
all right.
Ready, set, go.
Hannah, my customer just emailed me. They have the contract, but they have questions about the language. Can you take a look at it and tell me how to respond?
Yeah, I would love to schedule some time to make sure that we have kind of all the time that we need to go over the questions, but I'm in the middle of something right now. So let's make sure we can delegate the proper amount of time to this client.
They really, really want to get going, Hannah. Is there any way you can spend a few minutes now?
Yeah, when do they need the contract by?
Well, the teacher's really asking for it. They really want to use our product. So, I mean, as soon as possible. And they just emailed me. So I'm afraid if we don't get back to them right away, it'll be some time before we can get them again.
Okay, yeah, I got time for that.
Awesome. Here's the email.
Cool. Okay, do I come up with a scenario now or?
Yeah.
Okay. Hannah, I'm having a lot of trouble in Salesforce right now. I'm trying to pull a report in order to create my territory plan for the next quarter. The report's not pulling correctly and I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, I know reports can be a little tricky. There's so many fields in there in Salesforce. What would be probably best is if you reached out to our Salesforce office hours. I know they're on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, if you could attend that and then ask Maddie, who's in charge of Salesforce.
Okay, yeah, that works for me.
Cool. Hannah, let me think of something quick.
I know, I can't think of scenarios. I got one.
Oh shoot, I'm having a brain freeze.
That's okay. You're just about time anyways. All right, let's
okay.
do a little bit of feedback. So I'm gonna call you Hannah A and Hannah B if that works. So Hannah A was the one that went first and Hannah B is second. So Hannah B, how do you think you did responding to that first first scenario?
Yeah, so it's interesting because Hannah and I work together. A lot of the questions we were giving each other are questions that both of us have said, I have people coming to me with these exact things all the time. The contract one is interesting because in the market we're in, if somebody has legal questions, it can absolutely make or break the deal, but it's not always kind of as time urgent because the procurement process can take a bit of time and there is a lot to go through. So saying I have legal questions can mean anything from I have one question to I have an entire contract of red lines to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to do my best to get some more information exactly what the conversation was going to entail before I agreed immediately to giving her my time, because I have plenty of people who are like, yeah, I've got a quick question, and it ends up sucking up an hour or more of my time. So tried to get a feel for kind of how much of my bandwidth it was going to take, but knowing it was an urgent matter. So if it wasn't going to happen that second, I was open to scheduling some time.
Okay. In hindsight, anything you would have done differently?
I don't think so. Probably. There's probably plenty I can do different.
Hannah A, anything that you would have done differently or any opportunities you saw there?
No, I mean, I think she did a good job. Like, she tried to push back at first. I mean, I know just from experience, like what Hannah B was saying is that, is it really one question or is it like a whole spattering of questions? So that could help determine what it is. But yeah, and I know at least for us, we kind of had a lot of that. Other companies might have more legal people that would look at it. So in those cases, you could delegate it. In our case, we do a lot of that. So if anyone else is thinking that is a little bit of a difference with us, but
okay.
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience have any feedback to share? My one thought would be, is there a way, so is the urgency actually there, right? Like we have Hannah A, and I'm sorry, because I know you're not, I know Hannah A isn't your name, but for the sake of easiness on this call with 2 Hannah L's, Hannah A saying, no, it really is urgent. They are saying they want it now. Is it possible as the manager and Hannah B to say, would you mind reaching out to them to find out when they need these answers by, right? Like, can we get a solid deadline? And that may be, again, you have to know your own clients, you have to know how those things work, but that may be an opportunity for you to understand, is it truly an urgent fire drill or is it a schedule, right? Because somebody's version of now may not be the same as yours. So you don't always have to assume that now actually means right now. They might understand that this is going to take time. So they might say, yeah, by this time tomorrow, I need to know back from you. And that could mean now. Does that make sense? That would be the one little question that I maybe would have thrown back in there. What about the second scenario? How do you think you responded, Hannah A?
I thought I responded well. I think that's usually a delegate question. It doesn't sound like it was super urgent because she was strategizing, which is important, but it wasn't super urgent. So I tried to push it off to a designated time with someone who knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it was super urgent, like I could help or try to delegate it sooner, but that was the approach I took.
Hannah B, do you agree?
Yep, I agree. I would do the exact same thing. We are a relatively small company, but we do have a really good point of contact when we're pulling reports like this. And it typically, I'm doing territory planning, so it's something that I'm probably going to be doing continuously over a long period of time. It's definitely not urgent, but it is going to be important for kind of the overall success of the person.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're getting lower on time. I do want to do one more round of role play, but we won't go face off back to back to back. Let's get 2 more people to just do one round, okay? Let's see here. Who haven't we seen from yet?
So by the way, the fun of this is really trying to trip somebody up with the stupidest thing you've ever had requested.
There you go. Now that's a challenge. Kasha, you want in on this?
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
And let's see. Is it Tan or Tan Lu?
It's
Tan. Tan. All right, Tan. You want to go up against Kasha here?
Sure.
Okay. So Tan, why don't you give the solution, and then we're gonna have Kasha be the responder, or give the scenario.
Okay. Hey, Kasha, we've got our QBRs coming up tomorrow. Here's what I put together in terms of my presentation for that. Can you take a look at it and let me know what you think?
Yeah, Tan. So I'm actually about to jump into a meeting, but I do have an hour that might be available from like 4 to 5 today. What do you need to get submitted for tomorrow's TBRs? Are you just finished with the presentation and you just like some feedback, or kind of what's the overall goal?
Yeah, just some feedback, just to make sure that I covered all the key points and I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, sure. So why don't we delegate some time? Just put some time on my calendar. I have about 4:30 to 5 o'clock available, and we can kind of go through it, and I'll give you some feedback once I take a look at it as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. Kasha, how do you think you did there?
Good. I mean, the fact that he said it's due tomorrow, and I wasn't really sure what the TBR is, so I didn't want to. In that scenario, I'm assuming I would know what that exactly stands for, but I'm guessing it's an important presentation of some kind. Then I'd assume he does need some feedback, and I should probably take a look at it. For the most part, if I do have time on my calendar and I've gotten most of the things I need to in my day done, and I see a time slot, totally fine for me to book 15 minutes to look it over or have him send it in advance. So for the most part, that's probably what I'd do in that scenario. But if it was something that maybe I'm not as related to, I might delegate it to someone else on the team and say, hey, Chris just did a TBR yesterday. Why don't you actually send it over to him? He did a great job on it. He might give you some great feedback, and it's an opportunity for 2 people on the team to connect.
Great. And then Tan, how do you feel like you were handled? Is that the way you would want somebody to handle that for you?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think, Kasha, I really like that you asked some additional questions there, right? What is your goal? For all we know, he had a skeleton outline of his presentation, and he was saying, oh, I just want you to see my rough draft before I really get into it, right? Which would mean he would need, he would either need some direction that he needs to get further, or it would mean that you would need to meet with him sooner so that he had time for his deadline, right? So I thought that was a really important question to ask to really help you understand what that timing looked like. So I thought that was great. All right. Great job, everybody, on all of these role plays. And I'm going to hand it over to Lauren. Lauren, I don't know if you want to share any additional tips here, but I definitely want to hear from the group to hear a little bit more about what they're thinking.
Yeah, 100%. So everybody, Angela's going to have to pop off because she is a keynote speaker at the AAISP Women in Sales event starting in about 5 minutes. So thank you, Angela. Nice job and good luck.
Thank you.
I'll close us out in the next 4 minutes. So I just want to do a fast round robin with favorite tips. It can be from this class. It could be from a different class. What's one thing you do? Use your chat, please, that consistently helps you own your day. While I'm waiting for everybody to chat in, I will tell you my favorite. And because it's my favorite, I'm sure it was in the class. I absolutely positively turn off email notifications and then make anybody on my team do the same. So if you have reps that are like, the little, it pops up every time you get an email and shows you a preview, talk about a fire drill. So frustrating. Okay, I'm coming in to take a look at our chats. Let's see what we've got and who we can pick on to tell us more. Blocking the calendar, Jennifer. Yay, say 30 seconds about that. What's your favorite thing that you block for? Hannah does the same. Jennifer, let's hear from you.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. So I like to block the focus time. My Outlook actually reminds me to do this every week so I can have time throughout the day where I'm able to focus on whatever projects I'm working on. And what I'll do is kind of keep like a running tally on my notebook of the major projects that I'm working on. So that way during those times I have to focus on them based on importance, urgency, whatever, but I have dedicated time to work on what I want to work on, regardless of who's put what on my calendar.
Yeah, good. Calendar blocking, critical. I see a lot of you guys have answered with that. And some of you are doing it for my projects, that important strategic work we wish we had time for. And others of you are just blocking time for, don't book me in meetings. I know I'm going to have freaking fire drills. So here's my time to deal with them. So I see some people block time to eat. So I know that we were talking about that earlier, ladies who are making time for that. When it's important, block your calendar. The hard part is protecting it, which is why we did some of those face-offs at the end. You will 100% be asked to do something during your block or during some other meeting or when you're supposed to be call coaching. So it's all about that tenacity and ferocity of protecting your own calendar and priorities. And it is certainly a muscle that needs to be flexed and exercised a lot to make it happen. I want to remind you guys, I'm going to do a little housekeeping and let you go. There is a download if you'd like to keep a list of your own Eisenhower matrix to remind you. It's an additional resources in the bar. So just that reminder, when you click on it in the list, it'll open up, but it prints like crap. So if right under the description in the sales bar, you click additional resources, those PDFs are downloadable, which is important because we have come to the end of our boot camp. I want to remind you, first of all, let me thank you for joining us. Second, thank you to the folks who have finished their survey. Please, if you haven't, do so. You can chat me right now if you need it to be sent to you again, and we'll take care of that. But it's important, right? I told you we did this at a super reduced price and we had a bunch of theories and we wanted to test it out. So your feedback's really critical to us. I'll also announce that for everybody who did already complete the survey, we asked, do you want to do it some more? Do you want more of this? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. So you'll be notified soon of a part 2 of a boot camp coming in first quarter next year. Final announcement, unfair advantage to the women. If you like this kind of environment, Girls Club also starts next year, January through June. I know I've got some graduates here with me already. We do 7 courses in a cohort like this, all females. In addition to this competency training that we're doing with the management skills, we had confidence building, mentoring, some amazing female role models and spotlight opportunities within your company. So gentlemen, if you have aspiring female leaders on your team, this is the way to build the management bench. Again, the cost is greatly reduced because we have sponsors. We only open applications once a year. So chat me if you'd like to learn more about that, or hit me up on email or smoke signals or anything else. I'm going to stay on for a minute or two if anybody has questions. In the meantime, I hope to see you next year. Oh my God, happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. That's crazy. Bye, everybody. Thanks for making this a ton of fun.